From the iHeartRadio studios in New York City, come two diehard fans of the greatest rock and roll band hailing from Hollywood, California. Dissecting all things Guns N' Roses and anything else in their distorted minds, it's Brando and Scotto.
'Cause you know what the fuck you are!
And this is Appetite for Distortion.
Try it
Welcome to the podcast, Appetite for Distortion, episode 27. Wow. My name is Brando. With me, again, is my partner in perfect crime, Scotto, Ian. What's going on, handsome? I missed you.
Oh, that wasn't very creative. This one. You usually have something you concocted.
All right.
It's fine. But no, thank you.
All right, fine. I'll just call you ugly from now on.
As for what is going on, after we recorded, you and I, because you did an episode with John, but after we recorded 2 weeks ago, you didn't get to come with me. I did invite you, but I saw Terminator 2 in 3D. Holy shit.
Yeah,
awesome.
We did that live episode from the South Rep Studios, and I actually regret not going with you to go see Terminator 2 in 3D. I don't even know why I had to get up early the next day.
You're like, I have to clean my house. I'm like, all right.
Oh, yeah, because I had a girl coming over. All right, that was the reason, I guess. But so how was it?
So did you see any action? Because then it was...
Well, I told you I regret not going with you, right?
There you go.
So how was it in 3D? How was hearing, You Could Be Mine in 3D?
See that? Well, yeah. It's so funny to say, hear this song in 3D, which I know.
I know, it doesn't make any sense.
But yeah, it was so cool seeing that on the big screen, hearing the song, of course. I mean, it's such a classic, so that's why it ties into the podcast a little bit. But the 3D... When
Budnick, I don't know, I forget his name in the
Eddie Furlong's character.
Friend, yeah, but Budnick in Salute to Shorts, the redheaded guy when he's just on the bike playing it from the blue box. Love it.
So
anyway.
Cool. No, and the 3D transfer, because you wonder if it's going to come out well because it's such an old movie, but they're able to do just really awesome things. It looked like the movie was meant to be made in 3D.
All right. I don't know if it's happening, is it a worldwide thing? Because I know select theaters here in New York.
I know it was national, but it's over. So I would highly recommend it. But if you missed it, you missed it. And it was awesome. It was worth the ridiculous price of a movie because with the whole 3D thing, it was like, that's $18 or something. But that's New York City.
Well, yes.
But it was great. I really enjoyed it. It was one of the best movie going experiences for me because I'm not a big movie guy, but I knew Terminator 2, just seeing it in a theater is going to be something else. And then the 3D transfer is awesome. So I really enjoyed it. And then as we mentioned on the show 2 shows back, or the last show I was on, kind of from
the Brando and Scotto live era episode, the title of our episode.
From the promotion that they were doing, I guess, for this 3D thing, we learned that according to Arnold, he picked You Could Be Mine for the movie. He got to see them record the Use Your Illusions albums and said, this is the perfect song. So if that's really the story, he did a great job because I don't think you could have picked a better song.
Oh, it's perfect.
Yeah.
It's absolutely perfect, and it's one of those movies that I can still watch today. But
and sorry, one last thing on that is for anybody who owns the Welcome to the videos. That's the one video that's not on there because I'm guessing couldn't have they couldn't get the if I had to guess, I've never seen this for a fact, but they probably couldn't get the rights for the Terminator footage because they had Terminator footage in there.
Right.
That's my guess.
You would like to think so if it's a Guns N' Roses Welcome to the Videos. I'm curious the story behind that. All right.
That would be...
I'll look into that.
Because I would think you'd have to pay royalties then to Arnold Schwarzenegger, to, James Cameron, and...
I guess. I don't know how it works. I'd just be pulling information out of my ass.
Which I am, kind of.
I'm glad we can expose that. Oh, and also briefly, just speaking of movies, I saw It last night.
Yeah.
I can't compare it yet to the original. I'm not giving any spoilers, regardless of when you listen. But if you saw the original, of course, there's the young kids version. There's the adult version. They're doing the same thing, just in 2 different movies. So I would judge it when it's, you know, after the sequel, but still great.
Which the original was made for TV, right?
A miniseries.
Yeah.
I actually remember watching it. Speaking of like videos, on 2 VHS tapes. I remember watching.
I remember
the original It. But I spoke about it with John last episode that we did. I saw Lady Gaga since I saw you.
Yeah.
I will say, and I'll maybe get your opinion on it. I think Guns N' Roses ruined me for every band ever.
That's true.
Because obviously I was very excited to see Gaga. I want to, you know, have her children. I sat more or less in the same kind of vicinity that I sat.
Or you want her to have your children?
You heard me correctly.
That's funny.
I more or less sat in the same vicinity, not where I sat for Axl DC, like where I was like right there, but you know, wherever you are in the world, like the mezzanine kind of, you know, you're far away.
But you saw this at Citi Field, and Axl DC was MSG.
Right, but it was like the same distance.
Gotcha.
Well, I saw Guns N' Roses at where the Giants play, because, you know, it's NFL Sunday. And where Guns just came out, and everyone, when you've seen them, they're just nonstop over 3 hours. First of all, Gaga pulled almost an Axl. She didn't come on until 10 o'clock. Everyone was getting really antsy. I'm like, what is going on here?
Were there openers?
A really shitty DJ.
Okay.
That's all I'll say. I think he's her producer, but he was really bad. And then she would take breaks, and of course Axl does the, you know, he changes outfits,
but he's got the full band still
going.
band.
So when she would have part of her band come out, it was great. But when she would have these little vignettes up there of her doing some avant-garde thing, you know, it's cool, but it takes me out of the moment, you know, or I'm not as excited. I don't know, my mood kept going up and down, or I wasn't sure where it was going to go, where with Guns N' Roses, it was nonstop.
Yeah.
So that was a major takeaway. She's great. Recommend seeing her to anybody, but I think just GNR just spoiled me.
I'm in the same boat with you. There's really no live band that compares to them, although up there for me was seeing Van Halen with David Lee Roth the last time I saw them.
Yes, that was great. No, even though it's not the same David Lee Roth, he doesn't. No one's the same.
Yeah.
There's something we've spoken about, you know, ad nauseum here, and we'll continue to.
And I will say with Gaga, I am looking forward to that documentary on
5'2" that's coming out
on Netflix. I think it's like later this month.
I believe so. I think she just had her premiere. Not that I'm following her like a stalker, but
I want to check that out though. I love music documentaries and all that stuff, and
even Duff's documentaries on Netflix.
Yeah,
I want to see more. I want continue it before I derail you.
No, I was just going to say, even for just general music fans, when you watch that whole lifestyle, which I'm sure they're going to get into based on what I've seen of going on tour, getting ready to go on stage, it's not dissimilar from the way that Axl Rose probably lives, and it's just such a strange lifestyle and something that's foreign to us. We're used to like getting up, going to our job every day, 9 to 5 type thing, and they're all over the world playing shows and waking up to do a gig late at night and doing promotion for the gig. So like I like learning about that stuff.
Oh no, absolutely. And right now we're getting called by Art Tavana live on the air on my cell phone. Art Tavana, you're on speaker.
Hey bud, how's it going?
Good. Do you still want to do the episode? Do you want to do it on Skype?
I can't because I only have my phone and I have to
we do not have to. I will I'll have you call back. I'll give you a number because we're recording now. I wasn't sure, so we'll make this part of the show. This is hilarious. So you know, Art Tavana, our buddy. We'll talk to him in a second. So let me just give you the number to call, okay, buddy? So joining us now on the real phone, so you can hear him not through my speaker cell phone. Hey, Art, and it's Art. It's Art Tavana. How's it going, buddy?
What's up, guys? How's it going?
Good. I think is Art a co-host this episode, or what I'm going to start to do is when you're a buddy like Art Tavana or John Miller, I'm going to start referring to you as Bad Apples.
And Brando is answering the phone.
Yes, because Kevin's on. Hold on.
All right, let's get right into that then. This really is sounding like live radio, even though it's a podcast. I kind of dig it. So if Kevin is on, I will wait till I hear him and then give him an intro.
Kevin, you there?
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes.
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, awesome.
How are
So
you guys?
this is cool. So Art, I'm glad you called now because now we have. So Art, you're in LA, correct?
Yes, sir.
And we're in Tribeca, New York City. And now we go across the pond, way across the pond,
Yep.
to Ireland.
Yeah, it's
Belfast, Northern Ireland.
to Kevin Pryor. So I'll give Kevin an intro. Kevin Pryor is a guitarist and vocalist, also a guitar shop owner, currently working on a book and a solo album, which we can get into. And you can follow Kevin on Twitter at SirKevP. It's the first thing that I think we'll get into before all the projects.
It needs to be set up,
sure.
a little bit, because Kevin reached out to us a few months ago, and just like how many of you have, and it's been great. We've got a lot of new listeners since the Raz Q episode and the live episode, so we appreciate everyone from all across the world. But Kevin inboxed us wanting to be a guest, and this isn't what is this, Larry King?
Cooper City, Florida. Hello.
If you have a great story, you want to come on the show, awesome. The fact that someone's listening to us in Ireland is awesome. We mentioned Anna from Portugal. That's awesome. Art Tavana. I mean, Art's I have his phone number. We're BFFs now, and he found us. He found us on SoundCloud.
Yeah.
We never would have met otherwise. So this is just. Now we're all on the phone talking about Guns N' Roses. We would not have met otherwise, including you, Ian. You and I. Even though
that's true.
We both work. So it's that I just do want to mention, but. I was like, what's your story, Kevin? And you're like, I'm just a guy. I'm just a dude. So I want to hear your story, because when Art also tweeted out that he will come out with the ultimate Guns N' Roses book. Kevin, you're also working on one. Yeah. So that's also, you've been involved in our Twitter timeline a lot. So it's just very cool to say hi or it's not top in the morning, because it's 4:00 here in NYC as we're recording this on September 10th. And thank you, Jinx, buy me a Coke. It's 9:00 where you are?
It's 9:00. Yep, just past 9.
All right. So it's Sunday night, 9:00. Is there anything you're missing? Is there anything good on TV?
Jesus, no. Not at all. I was actually I was sitting playing guitar for the last couple of hours and just watching shit on YouTube. So.
Nice.
Whatever.
All right. Well, nice to see you have a lot of friends and keeping you busy.
Yeah. Kevin, let me ask you. My missus is away up to see her family, so I'm kind of on my lonesome today. So.
Okay. All right. Very
good. Chilling out.
Cool. Because
sorry, man. On you go.
No, it's all good, because I know we got a lot of voices, but we'll figure it out. Yeah. We will figure. I think as GNR added more and more people to the stage, I think that's what we're doing now with the microphones. So I want to get.
Yeah, it'll be like a Chinese democracy podcast. 20 layers.
Maybe we should have a spin-off podcast just for Chinese democracy. I think we would be the only ones who would listen to it. So, we got Art's reasons for writing the book. He feels there's a lot of misconceptions out there. But what's your... tell us a little bit about, is this where you're going to start, Ian?
The first thing, to be honest, that I was going to start with is, and what we'll definitely get into the book, but the fact that you got to see Izzy Stradlin's last live show, I think that's pretty fascinating, and audience would probably want to hear about that.
Yeah, I was only a kid at the time. I was 9 years old, and my dad got corporate tickets, and he always he got me into going to rock concerts and stuff like that. So I would have saw Jethro Tull and all these 70s bands that he liked at the time at that age. And then when I found Guns, I suppose it was my jam, and me and my dad didn't really get along well, so I think it was one of those okay, I'll get you tickets to this concert. So it was like a baptism of fire. At the same time, it's a bit regrettable because at the age I was, I wasn't really into it, and I didn't know the songs. In fact, nobody knew the songs because the Illusions hadn't come out yet or anything like that. For me, it was the spectacle of it, and I think I fell in love with Izzy Stradlin that day. There was something that happened then, and then of course he left a few months later, and that completely destroyed me. So I've always been very bitter of a lot of lineups after, just because of Izzy's absence. But yeah, I still love him.
What was that show that was the last show, by the way?
It was Wembley. It was Wembley in London. So I grew up in Scotland, so it was easy just to drive down at the time,
Now that we know one of your GNR stories, let's find out about who Sir Kevin is. I want to find out, because we bonded a little, because you said your grandma's from Brooklyn, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, my grandma's from Brooklyn. She was born and raised in Bushwick in 1929, I think. It was 1929 she was born there. So I've always had this affinity for New York City as well. But as I said, I grew up in Glasgow, Scotland.
Have you been here before?
Yeah, I lived out in New York, 2002, 2003. So
Okay.
I spent a lot of time there. I was out there with a band I was with at the time and just doing the usual, working in Irish bars and then trying to get gigs wherever the hell I could.
What about out in L.A. with like his art and all the hipsters? Were you out there?
No, I've never actually been out there. I think I've got too much New York blood flowing through my veins.
Okay, because Art loves L.A. right?
Yeah.
I love LA. I just don't like I like the suburbs. I don't like the city. Hey, Kevin, how come you're writing a book? What are you writing a book? What's your incentive or reason for writing a book?
I'm writing a book. I mean, obviously, the one you're doing is something I'm completely looking forward to because there is a lot of misconceptions and things out there. I'm not writing a book about the band. It's not going to be, and then Izzy met Chris and then all this kind of stuff. It's strictly from a fan's point of view. It's called Bad Obsession, and I go through song by song, and from being a band at such a young age, how the meanings of each song has kind of changed for me as I've got older. I'm 35 now. So it's more like a journey from a fan's point of view, and then being a musician, I go into kind of the musicality of each song and things like that. That is the stuff that's not been done before, but it's strictly from a fan's point of view. It's not like a biography of any sort.
So it's like Revolution in the Head, but for the Guns N' Roses, kind of?
Yeah, kind of. It's strictly a personal journey.
I like that.
And the big cool. So, yeah.
It gives a different viewpoint. That's something I kind of want to do, as I mentioned before with Anna from Portugal, like us, we're all fans. With this, to get a fan's story, a fan's point of view. So I want to start doing these fan spotlight episodes because I like how you just presented yourself. Hey, I'm just a guy. You weren't like, hey, I'm in this band in Ireland, because that's my Irish accent right there. So what is part of your journey? How did GNR touch you, or? Well, that made it sound really inappropriate. How do they emotionally touch you? So, what is part of your journey? What's your story?
Well, this is where I bring it right down. I actually recently posted this on my GNR because I knew I was coming on here to say about it anyway. But when I said earlier about my dad, getting me those tickets to kind of make up for stuff, he used to be a kind of violent drunk. Mm-hmm. And he used to come home at night and he would basically pick either me, my mum or my sister to kick the shit out of, for want of a much better term. But I got through it because I used to lie under my bed listening to Guns N' Roses, and it was the only thing I had access to that was as angry as I think I was as a child. So from that point on, it was just that they've always been very, very important to me emotionally, in terms of getting that escape. So I think that's what took me into music in the long run, was just as long as the whole cliche, as long as someone else gets what I got out of it kind of thing. So, yeah, it's all got to do with that.
What about GNR? Obviously that sucks. I'm sorry, but you don't need me to say that.
Yeah, well, as I said, I had a copy of Appetite for Destruction, so it was Guns that got me to escape that.
CD or cassette? I just want to kind of paint a picture.
This is cassettes.
Okay.
This is when I was a kid.
Okay.
I was a copy. My friend down the street gave to me, and it was the usual. Because Guns said fuck and all that kind of stuff when we were kids, you would kind of hide your GNR cassettes from your parents. You would label them something else, like Queen or something,
Yeah.
So I kind of got through it, and then whenever I moved, my whole family tried to stay together, so my dad moved us to Belfast in Northern Ireland at that point. And it was when the Troubles were just kind of simmering down here, so it wasn't that bad.
Okay.
And I just from an early age, I started playing guitar at 11, and I played my first gig when I was 16. And that'll be 20 years next year. So I've not had major success as a musician, as you know, but I've been lucky enough to have partied with guys in GNR. I've partied with Steven Adler. I've supported Tracy Guns and hung out with him quite a bit. I've played festivals with Mike Monroe and guys like that. So as a fan, it's been absolutely amazing just having the opportunity to see it from the outset kind of thing, get involved and have a good chat with these guys.
What was it like, having all these memories that are never going to leave you? When you see, someone like Adler for the first time, like, hey, kind of imagining yourself as a kid and, listening to his drum parts and like, what does that do to you mentally? Are you just like, hey, it's Steven Adler, or does it take you to a different place?
Seeing Adler was the strangest thing, because at the time there was this bar in Belfast called the Rosetta, and the first time he was over, I wasn't in the band yet, but my old band Twisted Rose supported them. That's how I got to know the guys. So I was hanging out with the guys there, and it was like, Steven's party, and come on, we'll go and party. And it was just, if you know the bar, it's not even in the centre of the city. It's way out on a housing estate, and it's not even there anymore. It's a supermarket now. But it was a complete shithole, and this was the height of Steven fucking up, really, in terms of being out there on his own. He still played like an absolute demon, but the guy was snorting Jägermeister backstage, like actually snorting it through his nose. And he's offering you this, and it was a complete mess. So it was kind of, looking back on it, it was a little bit messed up at the time. It was fantastic to be able to talk to him. But anytime I meet these guys, I'm kind of like Art in the respect where I badger them about Izzy.
Oh, okay.
I'm such an Izzy Stradlin fan, So I just want to know as much about Izzy Stradlin as I can, because there's not enough out there, and that's why Art's piece was so refreshing. Izzy is he's such an enigma. It's crazy that there's absolutely nothing. A lot of fans don't even know who the hell he is. A lot of fans are thinking Richard's him. A lot of fans once upon a time thought Gilby was him. And it sucks, because I know from a guitar perspective and from a fan's perspective how important he was. And this whole reunion thing, the fact he's absent, for me, that's just the final nail in the coffin in terms of, I don't think anyone will ever know who the hell Izzy is, And it sucks. It sucks as a fan. I've got a lot of respect for the guy.
That's interesting.
It's funny because someone wrote a book a few years ago. I think it was like 2010. Someone wrote a book called Dust and Bones. I think it was, what was the guy's name? Yeah. No one ever saw the book.
That's the one Jimmy Ashhurst done interviews for, and then totally he read it. He had to buy his own copy, as far as I know. That's how much it sucked, even though he contributed. It was just all sensationalism and lies, and just someone trying to cash in the name at the time,
Which is funny, which is basically everything that's ever been written about, like even the Mick Wall books, which I've read, all of them, even the new one. And so it's just like, I feel like people, when they write about Guns N' Roses, these like people who aren't real fans, they tend to just kind of write, make up quotes, pull history from like Google searches,
right?
Just very lazy bullshit, and all they want to do is get like the attention of Axl Rose and maybe get a lawsuit and then use that for like publicity or something. Yeah. It's so stupid and pathetic. But yeah, I mean, I think I've always said this, and this is why Guns N' Roses did such a good thing with their surprise show at the Troubadour. It was only fans. And I remember standing there, and I had this ticket in my hand, and I had the wristband, and like Rolling Stone, Vice, all these people were being turned away at the door. It didn't matter if you were this big journalist guy. They didn't give a shit. They didn't care who you were. All they wanted was their fans inside. And if you were a celebrity and you weren't a fan, they weren't letting you in. It was just, that's the thing. That's what fans should be writing about this. That's what you're doing is so cool, because you're doing something that every fan should write their story about why they love this band, because these snob elitist journalists in their fucking offices in Brooklyn, no offense, New York.
I love you, Art.
Don't even know anything about Guns N' Roses. Like, they just sit there with their fucking like lattes, and they watch like, CNN or MSNBC and like drool over Rachel Maddow and shit, and then write about Guns N' Roses. Like, no, sorry. It doesn't make any sense. It's great that,
it's something that angers me a lot as well whenever I'm out, and I've been asked in interviews as well before when, I've been touring with Cross-Eyed Mary, so who's your biggest influence and stuff, and you're talking to these rock journalists, and you say, guitar-wise, definitely Izzy Stradlin. And the fact that they're looking at you like, what? But they've probably got an Appetite t-shirt with that guy's skull at the top of it, sitting in the house, And they're looking at you like, who? And it's just, it's something that's always got to.
Yeah, and he was one of the primary songwriters. Yeah, and people definitely fail to realize that.
So what drew you to Izzy? Yeah. Was it his persona? Was it his songwriting? What specifically? Because you're a guitar player. It could easily be Slash, right?
Yeah, it could easily be Slash. I think at a very young age, it was all based on cool, you know. I think I've always said the reason I ended up smoking, I've quit now, is because of the age I am. My bedroom walls was Reservoir Dogs and Guns N' Roses, and you know, it was guys with shades and cigarettes, and I'm walking about fucking Rainy Arrow with shades on. You know,
I want to play Steelers Wheel right now.
That's cool. There's an Izzy Stradlin version for it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there is an Izzy version of that. Oh. I think that was his big dig at the reunion thing.
Ian, you weren't on the last episode, but Raz, and I've heard this from everybody, Izzy's just the coolest guy. And Raz met him like obviously before Guns N' Roses happened. And it's just cool. It's awesome to see that's like a consistent story, no matter what time period it is, no matter where in the world it is. Izzy is like Joe Camel. He's just Mr. Cool.
Right. That's exactly what Steve told me as well. You know, the first thing I asked about him, and Tracy as well. Tracy used to live with him, and he was just talking about how he's the coolest guy he's ever known. So it just seems to be across the board. He's always got that James Dean kind of thing going on. So someone famously said that years ago. He just has it. But in terms of guitar playing, he's seriously underrated. Like, everybody's like, oh, I can't hear a guitar and stuff like that. But Izzy's the guy that made the drums sound like the drums were playing notes. He's so syncopated and tight. You know, it's not showboating or anything. There's a hell of a lot goes into what he does, but you know, it's neither here nor there in terms of the mainstream.
Yeah, he doesn't get the credit because he never was a showman the way Slash was. And also, like, the thing about Izzy was, in the interviews, everything he's ever said, or whenever he's been, interviewed in a magazine, the rare times he's done video interviews, he never really talked about his playing in, like, a very, like, intricate, detailed way. I don't think he ever did, like, a Guitar World interview where he talked about like how he's influenced by the Ramones growing up, or the Sex Pistols and shit like that. But he never really got into his like actual guitar work in a very deep way. Whereas like all the other guitar players that were responsible for all the great songs we've heard over the years, like Jimmy Page and stuff, did. And I think that's another thing about Izzy that's why I really wanted to interview him and I never could, but I want to talk to him about his guitar playing. I want to talk to him about the guitars he owns, his technique, his changes over the years, everything, his finger work, all that kind of shit. And he never does. He never does that. It's a shame. And that's the one tragedy of his sort of mystique of being this outlaw who doesn't want to talk to anybody, is that he's sort of, the fans in the history books have lost kind of the connection with his playing that I think he's buried himself, which is unfortunate, I think.
Could you say the same thing about, like almost compare a little bit to Axl as far as he never would speak about maybe his singing process, or because there was a lot.
I still feel like Axl, though, he'll say his influences and stuff, because as Art was saying, when Izzy will say, I'm influenced by the Sex Pistols, the Ramones, like these are not guitar virtuosos by any means.
No.
And so Axl would, he always say Elton John and all these things. So you got a vibe of, he's a guy who I know has been known to listen to a band like Wasp, but can also listen to Elton John. And you can kind of hear that. You could hear there's a mashup between all these different styles. So with Izzy, you do wonder who his guitar influences are, because these punk rock bands, they're, like I said, definitely not guitar gods.
I guess I'm also comparing it a little bit to technique. I want to know how Art wants to know the technique. We want to, but same thing with Axl. What's the technique of him singing? I think that's fascinating. But that was just a random thought of mine.
But it's like Keith Richards. He's done so many interviews. He's done so many books. We've talked about the blues and every single guitar player he ever listened to, and he even talked about his riffs, like what his riffs were kind of where they were coming from, what kind of blues records he was playing with Mick and all that. I think Izzy could do something like that. But also, it's just like, also then there's a thing of, and I think you guys have made this point before. It's like the reason he's so kind of revered and talked about, and there's so much buzz around this guy who really wasn't like technically a genius. He was a genius in terms of songwriting and like the feeling he brought to the instrument, just the same way Richards was. I mean, Keith Richards wasn't a technical guitar playing genius. He never was. But he was the guy that was able to create these like riffs that you'll never forget, and was able to put together chord structures that were like, made catchy songs out of like stuff that was going to could have been just this boring blues song. That's what Izzy was able to do. But I mean, I think you should talk about it one day. Hopefully he will.
Well, I've said it before, Art. I mean, of all the guys who have played guitar in Guns N' Roses, as much shit as he got, Buckethead technically would be the best guitarist that's played with them, I think. Bumblefoot is up there too. Oh, yeah. Technicality, it doesn't necessarily matter. I think to the average fan, they want to hear great songs. They want to hear catchy riffs and just memorable music. And, the riffs that Izzy created, that Slash created, they might not be the most technical, but they're more memorable. And I'm saying this objectively because I love Chinese Democracy, but there's nothing on Chinese Democracy that compares to that main riff from Sweet Child of Mine.
Yeah.
It gets stuck in your head like that.
I'm curious, Kevin, as a guitar player, what you think of Buckethead?
Yeah, if you're gonna cut out the second lead guitar and take the most technically proficient guitar players, lead and rhythm that GNR have ever had, it's Buckethead and Richard, without a doubt. But they're not the right guys for GNR. They are not GNR. There's a lot that Izzy does. A lot of rhythm guitar players, like if you look at Malcolm Young, he stays down the low end of the fretboard. It's a lot of chordy stuff, and he's putting out the chords behind what Angus is doing. Izzy was all over the fretboard, even in the first three things he does in Welcome to the Jungle takes you all the way up it and all the way back down. The guy is seriously underrated, and I'm always arguing with guys on my GNR saying, but Rich is so much better than Izzy, and I'm like, yeah, well, Bucket was so much better than Slash, but was he the right guy?
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely truth to that. Yeah, and even, so Axl could still sing, but we often talk about these bands where, the lead singer just doesn't have what they had at one time, and they're still touring. But people just want to see those original members. There's something about seeing that magic there. So I get it. It's not about who is the best player sometimes. It's just about you want to see these guys who created this thing that you love and that you grew up with. So, yeah, I think people would love to see Izzy back on that stage. Is it going to happen? I mean, look, they've been touring for over a year now at this point, and there's been no sign of him making even a one-off appearance.
We've asked Art, obviously, after he did the Izzy article specifically, since Izzy was with the New Guns, Axl and Roses and Roses, as Dee Snider called it. Yeah. And then Izzy was also with Velvet Revolver. So, I mean, there's a relationship there. Why not now? And I think we asked from Metal Sludge.
Oh, Steve Rochelle.
Yeah, and we spoke about this a lot, too, that it's not just dividing the money. It's dividing, like, the direction of the band or, just a lot of other factors that go into it. And also he made a point, which I hated to agree with him, Izzy hasn't done anything as far as keeping up this brand. He hasn't kept up his brand, but he's created a ton of music.
Right. Yeah.
Well, of course.
Which I think that part of it, too, is I think if Izzy was to tour with Guns N' Roses, I think he'd want to see some original material. Like, I don't think he'd be willing, the way Slash and Duff are, to go up there and do sort of a greatest hits type set.
Yeah.
I think he seems to be a creative person who wants to, keep making new music and keep being an artist. And these guys, as much as they like making new music, they seem pretty content up there just playing the hits and some covers.
A lot of covers.
And a few songs off Chinese.
Yeah. So then, Kevin, what do you think then? What do you feel is the reason? As someone who's, devoted.
We've heard it from so many different things. We've heard Steven say, Izzy wants it without the keyboard players. He wants it to just be the five. We've heard Axl doing, it's Izzy just being flimsy and stuff like that. And then something that nobody ever points out, Duff said before the reunion, after he'd done that EP with Izzy and Jerry Cantrell for his book, he said in some interview that, he hopes to be playing music with Izzy for the rest of his life and stuff. So I can't imagine they're in good books anymore. I personally think Izzy wanted back into the partnership. It was never going to happen, and he does want to create new music, but he wants to level it. He doesn't want to be out there playing Estranged and This I Love and all, and it's hard to even imagine him playing the Chinese stuff, and it's not from a technicality. The rhythm guitar in those songs are bare bones. I mean, if Paul fucking Tobias can do it, anybody can do it.
There's a bit of a shot there.
I'm not a guitar player, so I don't know. I guess that made me laugh regardless.
There's so many layers on them. You can just pick one and just go with it,
Okay.
That'll carry off the song. I think it's great what Slash and Duff are doing with it. I still think it's a bit strange.
It is.
I think Izzy wants Guns N' Roses back, and what we're presented with now is it's just an extension of the Illusion tour that he wasn't a part of. Instead of Gilby and Matt, we've got Richard and Frank, you know.
That's an interesting analogy, or a way to put it.
And I also think, you know, back then they had one arsehole manager that they didn't like, and now there's like, they've all got a manager each, and Izzy, as far as I know, doesn't have management. So it would be hard to be in there arguing with Team Brazil and Duff's guy and Slash's guy and what should happen and what shouldn't happen and stuff. It's the background and the politics. For Izzy, that must be so off-putting, because I think the only thing he wants to do is go out and play guitar and have a good time with his friends. Business is what's scaring him away, you know.
Art, what do you think on that?
Why Izzy's not in the band right now?
Yeah, we've spoke about that with you. I mean, have you changed your view? But I mean, what do you think about what Kevin just said? Do you agree with that?
I mean, I do to some degree. I mean, it's complicated because no one knows, right? I mean, it's like trying to figure out the psychology of Izzy and Axl and the whole. The bottom line is there's like, if you talk to people behind the scenes, they all say the same thing. It's all the same sort of consistent sort of story, which is that, you know, there are creative differences between Axl and Izzy. There are creative differences that can't be, you know, fixed. And Izzy, and that's the story behind the people who know these guys. My thinking has always been, I don't think Izzy Stradlin wants to be he doesn't want a day job. Like, he doesn't want to wake up and be, okay, I got to be here at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
I got to sound check at 4. I got to go to like the studio. I got to go to like Axl expects us to be at this rehearsal thing. It's like, he's not a worker bee kind of guy. I think Slash and Duff are really sort of tight professional guys who do this because, you know, they make a living doing it, and also it's just their thing. It's what they do. It's like, Izzy's not that guy. Izzy wants to do whatever he wants, whenever he wants to do it. And if he feels like going surfing one day, he'll go surfing one day. If he feels like going to Santa Monica to play random guitars and buy a pedal, he'll do that. If he feels like going to Indiana and hang out with his family, he'll do that. He doesn't want to be anywhere at any time. So that's the reason, in my opinion. I think Izzy Stradlin just doesn't want to do all that shit. And also, you know, if he's going to do it, he wants to get the same amount of money as Axl Rose to do it.
Yeah, I mean, we can only judge him.
Never happen.
I agree, and we can only judge him based on what he said on Twitter. He said it was about splitting the money.
Yeah.
So that was his statement, and I agree with everything Art said. And you know, part of being in a rock band at the level of Axl Rose Slash is like you have your own individual brand. And even though the band currently is doing no media, at some point they might. We talked about that the last show I was on. And, you know, I think when they decide that, you're going to see Axl or Slash go on shows like Eddie Trunk and just do different media. And that's a part of the gig. And I don't think Izzy likes that part of the gig. I agree. He just wants to go up there, rock, make music. And I don't think he likes all the changes in lineup. And as you said, I think he wouldn't want to play these songs that he wasn't a part of. So, yeah, I think it's...
I don't think he cares about the changes in the lineup. He's played with Axl in
that's true.
The most kind of bastardized lineup you could think of. I don't think he's interested about any. I really don't think he wants to just be on the road on a plane, to go to a hotel.
That's a good point.
So just do one show from his hometown.
Yeah, I do want to see a one-off. That's true. I mean, I feel like at the very least I'd want to see a one-off, and which is why it's still kind of weird that I'm not going to these MSG shows, because I've said to you, if it just so happened that Adler or Izzy came out, and Adler is less exciting, but especially Izzy. Yeah, I would be kicking myself. But right now, if it's just going to be the exact same thing for the most part that I saw at Giant Stadium, I can't be enthusiastic enough to pay like $150 for okay seats.
Well, I did, and I'm less enthused, but I'm still going.
Sure.
But I admit I'm less enthused. I'm hoping there's something different, other than the Wichita Lineman and Black Hole Sun.
Yeah, and Eddie Trunk made this point. You know, he said that the first tour they were doing stadiums, now they're doing arenas. You know, albeit they're doing 3 nights at MSG, but at some point it is going to dwindle down unless they do something new. Unless they're going to have to put a new spin on things if they want to keep doing this, whether it's doing media, as he said, or, you know, changing around the lineup or doing new music.
Yeah.
But at some point, if they're just going to keep doing a similar set, a greatest hits type set, Yeah, it'll dwindle down. It'll be, like that Motley Crue last tour we saw. There was some enthusiasm, and Motley Crue is not as big a deal as Guns N' Roses, but we saw them do. Yeah, but we saw them, a lot of enthusiasm for this final tour, and by the end of that tour, I think the enthusiasm completely wore off. I mean, you heard Stevie Rochelle on our show say he was able to get seats to the last ever Motley Crue show on New Year's Eve for I think like $20 or something, and that's kind of sad.
That's so funny. I was at the Rainbow that night, right before they played. I didn't get tickets to Motley Crue because I don't really give a shit about Motley Crue. But I was at the Rainbow that night, like having drinks with this friend of mine, and there was this group of like girls or women, I should say, older women who were next to us who were getting ready to go to see Motley Crue, and like I just thought like this is like I don't know. It was just so goofy talking to them about why they like Motley Crue because I never figured it out. I've never been a fan. I enjoy the
You're talking. All right, before you continue, don't forget Ian has a Motley Crue tattoo. But continue.
I know. I know the symbolic kind of thing about Motley Crue, like what they represent. Like, but their music itself, I cannot not even for like 10 minutes. There's a few albums I really like that are really like kind of exciting, like Dr. Feelgood, I guess, or whatever. But like, I don't get it. And then like, for somebody to spend their New Year's Eve at Motley fucking Crue, come on. Like,
I really regret that I didn't go, but no, I do get what you're saying because I do think Motley Crue, it was probably more about the image than the music. I think he's correct on that. I mean, Motley Crue were the first like mainstream band to be tatted up, riding Harleys. So yeah, it was a lot about what they represented, and I agree with Art, even as someone who loves Motley Crue, you go through those albums, there's a lot of corny songs on pretty much all of them. And Guns N' Roses, on the other hand, you listen to everything from Appetite to, in my opinion, Chinese Democracy.
I agree.
There's really not a lot of songs that you look back and I don't know, have that douche chill moment, I guess
just
you would say.
For me, yeah.
Because you listen back to Motley Crue and hear like Rattlesnake Shake. It's not a good song. Like it's silly.
No.
That's
a band that did not age well. And I talked to Del James about this once, and I can't share what we talked about, but he basically told me like in a really longer kind of conversation that like Motley Crue was that band, and there's been a lot of bands like this over the years. But Motley Crue was that band that at the moment in like 1982 or 80, whatever the fuck was their peak, it was like, this band is so fucking cool. And then 20 years later, it was like every single person who was ever at those shows realized that band was only cool because we're all like really high on coke and like that was like, and there's a lot of tits, there's a lot of like blonde, half naked girls, and it was like the atmosphere made that band seem really amazing. But when you pull that band out of their like element and you put them as a musical entity on an arena tour where it's like 2017, it just seemed kind of goofy. But
I don't know if I would agree. Hold up though, when you say they haven't aged well, I feel like that way about
Kiss, by the way.
Okay, yeah, but when you say they haven't aged well, I would agree with some of it. However, there's certain songs that you still play today by Motley Crue. Like, dude, you go to a hockey game, basketball game, you'll still hear "Kickstart My Heart," "Dr. Feelgood." Dude, those are great songs, man.
Wild Side. You laugh.
Those are
Same Old Situation.
Yeah, those are songs
Don't Go Away Mad.
But I will say Don't Go Away Mad's not bad. I was gonna say
when it comes to Motley Crue here, they're not that bad. They're not as well known as a lot of the bands from that time. I suppose it's just a different take being here in the UK, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no. I don't know if I'd agree with that. I mean, I feel like in America they're they're an
American band.
Known,
they're really an American band. It's just in the UK. They're not really pullers. It's the same as Aerosmith. We didn't really get Aerosmith until like the early 90s when they started doing the ballads,
But to wrap up about the aging well, I will say like a song like Without You, like the ballads. Yeah, it's terrible. It's so corny. So I will, being completely objective, I would agree with Art. There's a lot of material that hasn't aged well, but there's a lot of material that's great. And here's the crazy thing, man. There's certain stuff I love by them that the band itself hates. They've said before that they think the Theater of Pain album sucks, minus the singles on there. And I can listen to that album. I can listen to it start to finish, all the time. It's a mainstay for me. So I don't know, man. I guess just to each his own is my point.
I love the John Corabi stuff.
Oh, I love the John Corabi stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The John Corabi stuff's amazing. I love the production on that record.
Great album.
I played that a lot in the shop,
Art, have you ever listened to the John Corabi album?
No, I haven't.
You might actually like the John Corabi album. You know, it's because I really do think start to finish that is a solid rock album that has aged well. Yeah. However, it's
he's
just
the guy
not...
that replaced Vince Neil?
Yeah.
That replaced Vince Neil. Oh, okay. Yeah, I would never even do that. Like Motley Crue without the original cool element is just that's even worse. But to me, Motley Crue was always it's like Donald Trump, right? I love art. I don't like Donald Trump. I don't support Donald Trump. I would love to see Donald Trump out of office and just off the earth in some capacity. But I really, really fucking love the people he pisses off. I just love and that's Motley Crue to me. I don't like Motley Crue, but I really love that they piss off these fourth wave feminists who are offended by everything, or these elite liberal fucking college professors who are oh, you gotta listen to Radiohead or you don't know music.
Yeah.
I just love that they piss people off. But I can't listen to Motley Crue.
And they pissed off the music journalists at the time who were The Cure, Depeche Mode, these are the bands you should be listening to. They did think that it was childish and immature music. So yeah, I agree with you. I like everything about the image of the band. So I get your point though.
You don't like everything about their image. Come on.
I do.
That's too funny.
I love it. I love it.
But then Kevin brought up an interesting point though, because we're talking, of course, here in New York, out in LA, so different coasts here in the States, and it's maybe different bands. Art, there's probably Twisted Sister's not going to be as big by you as it, because they're from here, so everyone loves Twisted Sister.
Right. I love them, but yeah, I get it. They're not big enough. They're not really an LA band.
Right.
I think D. Snyder said some nasty shit about LA once, but although he lives in Venice, I saw him riding his fucking Harley or something in Venice once.
I thought he moved to Vegas.
I think he did.
Last time I saw him, I think he was in Venice. Maybe he moved. I don't know.
He's a very nice guy, actually. Name drop. I met him once.
That was my first gig.
Oh, it was to board up his show, right?
Yeah, it was Fangoria Radio with Dee Snider.
Nice. But
dude's a hell of a singer, and I'll never forget. We're Not Gonna Take It, in the Iron Eagle soundtrack, was the most peak '80s rock and roll meets bombs falling on the Middle East. It was fucking sick. It was great.
A Twisted Sister pin on your uniform.
Yeah. Anyway,
what do you want to do with your life? So then Kevin was if Motley Crue wasn't big there. Aerosmith, not until you said the 90s they weren't prevalent.
Yeah,
because they obviously they've been around since the 70s for us and had major hits. In the States.
Exactly.
So then, what about Guns N' Roses? I mean, obviously for you, yes, but then overall, because that's what we're doing here. We're trying to talk to fans all across the world. So what's the Guns N' Roses welcome when they come?
They've been massive since day one.
Yeah.
Since they broke through MTV, since day one. Whereas it's like I said, Aerosmith, no one really knew about here because there wasn't much put out here until they had their Geffen deal, and it was all the ballads and big ones came out. I think that was '94.
Right.
Big one. That was a great album. I love that album.
That's pretty interesting, though, because nowadays it doesn't matter if you have a big distribution deal just because of the internet. People discover things. Though I do remember, and this is totally off the topic of rock and roll, but on the topic of what's big where, my friend Leslie went to school in the UK for a while, years ago, and I remember him coming back and being like, "You got to check out this stuff, dubstep. Dubstep is the big thing in the UK," and it was years until it broke through in the US. And I was like, holy shit, this is the first kid to ever tell me about dubstep. So in the UK, it was big, I think, 5 or so years before anyone heard about it in America.
It actually also makes me think, and I know this is going to make Art very happy, the first time I heard about Lorde was people from from the West Coast, and then she broke everywhere. I like Lorde. Art does not.
Yeah. Royals was basically a song about Los Angeles. Even though she's not from here, that song was basically about what it's like to be poor.
Yeah.
Relatively average-looking to ugly girl in Los Angeles. But I don't dislike Lorde. I just think she's boring, and I don't understand the sort of massive following she has. She should just be this indie, underground Pitchfork girl who plays the small venues like the Echo in LA or whatever. You guys have in New York now since everything's being closed down. But she's really, she's indie and kind of fun in that weird, depressing kind of way. If you like post-punk or you think Ian. Whatever, if you think Joy Division's cool or whatever, but I don't get the whole oh my gosh, she's the future of pop music. She's redefining the genre. She's David Bowie for depressed.
No, that's a little far. I mean, she's very talented, and I like her music. But I mean, I don't know. I think you're surrounding yourself with like the most extreme views of things.
He is a journalist.
That's true.
I'm surrounding myself with music editors who are the dumbest fucking people in the country. That's the problem.
Well, it's in addition to giving like someone like Kevin a voice, now we're giving people like Art a voice. So it's so you can rant and rave. It's a little sometimes it's easier or more fulfilling to do that by yelling rather than just writing very hard on the paper and stamping it down or typing very hard. So this is your outlet.
No one even lets me write anymore. They're all afraid of the shit I'll say. I can only write for like really like specific editors who are like, oh, we get it. Everyone else is just scared. Like even the LA Weekly is like frightened that I'm gonna write about how like Guns N' Roses is masculine, and you can't write about that anymore. So that's sexist. That's sexist, man. You can't write about that.
Well, you keep writing regardless. It's gonna be found out. So, but I want to know, Art, you said your book is still like what, a year and a half away, right?
My goal is to release it around Chinese democracy 2018 kind of thing, but that's not going to happen. So I think it's going to be probably like middle of or early 2019. And yeah, that's the goal.
All right. So then, Kevin, where are you in the process of your book?
I'd say probably the start of next summer, all being well. I could go all Axel here and say as soon as the word.
Chinese democracy going to come out? Are we going to see it soon? You'll see it. I don't know if soon's the word.
That's how we end.
We're kind of finishing up nicely on it. We're finishing up nicely. Nice. My good friend, he's a music journalist as well, Brian Coney. He was a bass player in Cross Eye Mary with me, so he's helped me kind of iron it out a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully the start of next summer, all being well. That's the target anyway.
That's awesome. You're gonna have to keep us updated. Art, you gonna say something?
Yeah, since he's writing about it, real quick. What's your favorite Guns N' Roses song? Do you have one?
My favorite song? It changes all the time. No, that's just because of the fan side of things. It was a good title for the book, but I've always liked Double Tap and Jive, now not so much, but just because it was so Izzy-centric.
Great song.
I think Rocket Queen, early days, is Estranged, later days, I would say.
Yeah. Rocket Queen's my favorite.
I'll never forget when I saw them in 2002 at the Garden with the Buckethead version. Rocket Queen came on. Some drunk guy that looked like Chong, from that 70s show coming on. He's like, oh, I love this song. It's my favorite. I'm like, okay, I want to hear it. Shut up now.
I saw them in London around that time, but I was a bit out of my head. But I think I needed to be for the whole Buckethead thing. It was strange. It was good, but it was strange.
So then you've seen that. I was going to ask, have you seen the reunion, the Not in This Lifetime reunion?
Yeah, I was down at Slane.
Yes,
it was the very first one. So it was the first performance of Black Hole Sun.
Yes.
And then,
tell us about that. So what was that? What was that like? Were you expecting it? What was the atmosphere like?
Because you guys will know this. It's the downside to being such a geek about the band. Someone had posted the night before that they'd sound checked it.
Oh.
So
you blew it for yourself?
Yeah. Kind of.
No spoilers.
Yeah, that's my rule, man.
Totally, but it was amazing. It was amazing at the time. It was hairs in the back of your neck kind of stuff, and the lighters came out, and where Slane is such a nice setting because it's next to an old castle. It's down in a valley, so
I saw the pictures. They're beautiful.
It's absolutely gorgeous around it. So it was just, it was poignant to say the least.
That's cool, man. What about?
And because it was like a week after he died, not even.
Yeah. So what about the? Sorry.
On you go.
I was just going to say, what about Axel DC? Because they played some UK shows, right?
Haven't saw them yet. I want to. I got an Axel DC T-shirt, and all my ACDC loving mates hate it.
Wait, is it the one that? Is it the one that? Because I think Ian says it to me first. The one that's like the handicap logo when he broke his foot first.
No.
Oh.
No, it's just the AXL and then the Lightning Strike DC.
Oh, okay. Because when Axel broke his leg, when he was still performing, that's how we first started with the Axel DC. People would send me a T-shirt because of me being handicapped with the handicap logo and it says Axel DC and has a little bandana on the handicap
cool,
guy.
Yeah,
I probably should get that shirt regardless. You gave us some awesome names. Obviously, you met Adler. You've also met Gilby and Duff. Any interactions, or just like, hey, anything, any good stories out of that?
I've a good story about Slash. Backstage at Download Festival 2010, Slash was there with Miles Kennedy and Conspirators. I think he was fourth from headline, and I think we still had Motorhead, Billy Idol, and then Aerosmith were top. But I got backstage pass. I was there with my bandmate from Twisted Rose, who had been playing with his other band. So we got artist passes, and we were schmoozing backstage, and we were like, right, we're going to go up and watch Slash on the side of the stage at Download. So I was like, okay, awesome. So we're standing. I'm good friends with a couple of the guys in Enough's Enough as well, especially Tory.
Nice.
Played a few festivals with him. So we're just waiting for Slash to come out, and Slash comes out in the top hat, leather trousers, all geared up for the stage. And I don't know if you guys know, but here in the UK, we use the word slash for, having a piss.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Slash. Yeah. So Slash, because he has to suddenly go up on stage, starts pissing against his dressing room with his entourage around him, and I didn't even notice, and just my friend nudged me, and he goes, man, there's Slash having a fucking slash. And it was just it was the most surreal thing I'd ever seen. But then we walked up on stage, and the rest of the Conspirators went out, blah, 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 and we were walking to the other side of the stage, so behind the banner, and Slash was obviously going to walk out last. So he's doing the stretches and everything, and it's the first time I'd ever met him, so I had to go over and say hello, and I just went over, shook his hand, and said, here, man, have a great show. And then I just realised after shaking his hand that he just had a piss.
Nice.
Slash isn't real.
Sorry.
But then, who was the guitar player for Guns N' Roses? One of our parents.
Sorry, I had South Park talking over you. I have Tourette's syndrome.
Yeah, all right. I love South Park.
I'm going to start using that now. I'm going to go take a slash.
We used to call it that, and then if you were going to take a shit, it was an Izzy. It just became a thing.
Okay. But that's not the official thing.
No, it's not the official thing.
Okay.
But yeah, that was definitely the strangest one. Duff's like, I've met him a couple of times. He's played where my band usually plays in Belfast, I think 4 times with Loaded. And then another bar we play in, Voodoo, he was in there with Walking Papers as well. So he's always been kind of cool to just hang out. Gilby, just top guy. I felt really bad for Gilby. Gilby was playing the same shithole that Stephen had played the year previous, and I think there was about 3 people there.
Damn. I've seen shows like that.
Yeah, it sucked because we knew how far he'd came, and all the bands that we're supporting were thinking, oh my God, we're playing with a guy from Guns N' Roses, blah, blah, blah. And it just worked out bad, so.
Yeah.
It wasn't good. It was kind of sad. Stephen, I told you about that first time. Second time, he was even more wasted. Third time, he didn't show up.
Damn, man.
So, yeah, that's when he was really bad. But yeah, Slash being the most interesting. Duff, we have a dish over here called Cheesy Champ, which is champ's just mashed potato with spring onions through it. It was just the first thing Duff ever said to me. Was like, hey man, what the fuck's Cheesy Champ? You know what I mean? So it was kind of odd. But as I said, it's just nice meeting these guys.
Yeah.
Most of them are so quiet. Most of them are so down to earth and gentle. Rudy Sarzo was playing bass for Tracy when he was here.
Nice, from Quiet Riot, right?
Yeah. Whitesnake, Ozzy Osbourne. He's in a good few bands.
Yeah.
And he's like the most quiet, down to earth guy. He only drinks ginger ale. He doesn't drink alcohol, anything like that. So a lot of the time, it's just nice spending time with them. Again, when it comes to the Guns guys, I just badger them and try and get info about Izzy. I even talked to Gilby about Izzy. That's how terrible it is.
Oh wow! What was that? Do you remember that conversation? Like, I'm curious what the replacement would say of Izzy.
Just that, he's always known Izzy. He's known him since well before GNR, because they used to talk about the Faces and things like that, and just loved a lot of the same bands, which I think had a lot to do with the fact that he was asked to join GNR, but he obviously went down a different track with Kills for Thrills and stuff. And then I think after that we just ended up talking about guitars, because I was surprised they brought us Zemaitis, which is like practically a priceless guitar to a shithole in Belfast. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe you're touring with that. So it quickly changed, but again, just across the board, all of them have so much respect for Izzy. I have a good conversation with Slash. I don't know the crack on that one, but in terms of Gilby, Tracy, and Stephen, they couldn't speak higher of the guy. They were talking about him like it was their brother, and they love him, and they obviously seem to really, really look up to him as a musician and a person. So
it's cool to know that we have people listening, just worldwide, different continents. It means a lot, and it was great having you on. So you could follow Kevin on Twitter at SirKevP. And then I guess the last thing is, if other people in your area are listening, what's the name of your guitar shop?
It's called the Boneyard Guitar Workshop. It's on the High Street in Hollywood, which is just outside Belfast.
And from what you've said, it's like a lot of rock and roll memorabilia all over the place.
He plays the podcast in his shop, right?
Yeah, I play the podcast in the shop. I always post it when I do.
Nice.
So guys come in, we'll have a coffee after hours, have a few beers and a few jams. But yeah, it's covered in framed Izzy Stradlin and GNR kind of stuff. And yeah, it's a GNR museum, basically.
Badass.
There's a guitar shop.
Oh, that's amazing.
But yeah, it's my home away from home.
I don't want this to be an empty gesture, but if I'm ever there, I would love to go. And obviously, if you're ever, if you want to visit your Brooklyn roots, you're more than welcome to come, because this is cool. We want to talk to more people.
You're more than welcome.
Yeah, cool. I want to get more stories out there. You going from what you went through as a childhood to, I consider you successful. What you're doing what you love. So definitely keep in touch and just keep us up to date with the book. I can't wait to read it when it eventually comes out.
Yeah, and thanks very much, guys, for having me on. I really, really enjoyed the podcast, and to Art as well. I think what you're doing is fantastic, and I can't wait to read the first real GNR book. I thought the article was absolutely amazing, so kudos, bro.
Oh, thanks, buddy. I appreciate that so much. I can't wait to read yours as well.
Group hug.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks very much for having me on, guys. I'll see you later. Cheers, dude.
Sounds good, buddy.
Awesome having Kevin on. He mentioned Enough's Enough, so I was going to bring this up. I actually just scribbled it down as we were talking as something I could mention during the outro. I told you, I don't know if you saw this, Art. This was kind of weird. And when I was on Facebook the other day, it was probably a week ago or so at this point, but Steven Adler did a Facebook Live, and Adler does a bunch of stuff with Enough's Enough. So I'm watching the Steven Adler Facebook Live. I'm wondering what it is. And it's Enough's Enough playing some festival because it was a pretty big crowd. They're playing some like outdoor place. And it's them playing their last song. And they're like, thank you. You've been great and everything. And Chips Enough is leaving the stage. And the guy filming the Facebook Live for Adler says to Chips Enough, he's like, what about Steven? Because you could tell it's coming from the guy filming. And Chip says, he's like, they wouldn't let us do it, man. We had to wrap up. And then right after that, they deleted the Facebook Live. So I was like, fuck. So I guess Steven Adler was supposed to go on stage and play drums with them, and it never happened because he's been known to do that from time to time. So just a little tidbit of information there, but it was definitely kind of weird. I like right after it happened, I noticed they deleted the Facebook Live. So something went wrong.
I always like these.
I had no idea.
These random Facebook lives that pop up, like when I saw that Sebastian Bach live that came up when he was saying that Axl is writing an autobiography.
Yeah,
So that just happened to be it's Sebastian's writing books. He's pretty funny. Let me just watch him, and it's just it's fascinating. So, all right, I want to know what's going on more with you, because you said the book's still going to be a little bit. Are you collecting more details? Are you doing more research for it, or is it just prioritizing time? So what's
yeah, man, I'm always doing research on it. I'm always talking to people. I'm always doing shit about GNR, but right now for the last few months it's really been just these stories I'm doing for Playboy. Did a story on mostly political stuff. I did a story on Milo Yiannopoulos that's coming out probably next week. I'm doing probably an interview with somebody I can't really name right now, but it's not GNR related. It's just a big political person, probably for Playboy. And then from there, after that's all done, I have to focus on the book pretty much 100%. I didn't want to, the thing about the book is it's going to be very gonzo. It's kind of like it's pretty much the Izzy Stradlin article, but as a book. And it's going to be, GNR history, but me trying to go down the route of GNR history, like physically going to the locations, physically talking to people, physically archiving actual information. It's not going to be I'm not going to sit there and read a bunch of books about GNR.
Yeah.
I still met Izzy Stradlin in 1979 at a fucking book. I don't care. Like, no one cares about that shit anymore. So it's like, I want to do... The Izzy Stradlin article was cool because in that article I counted there's about like 8 or 9 tidbits that had never been written about before. So that's kind of what I hope to try to accomplish. Yeah. And then I hope to have in the same process, like, just completely shit all over people like Mick Wall and like these bastards who've like really ruined GNR's legacy and written stuff that's not true, but beyond written stuff that's not true, really done like a real hatchet job of their history and really cheapened this band. Like, this band could have been Led Zeppelin in the history books. Like, the perception of them could have been Led Zeppelin because the stuff about them is really, the real story is really fucking cool and interesting. It's about the music, you know, and these fucking guys, all they wrote about was Axl Rose is a psycho and he fucking, you know, doesn't go to shows on time and they make up all these quotes and it's just fucking horrible. So that's pretty much it. In the process, I'll probably be doing a lot more political writing because I see no reason to write about indie music anymore or really write about music anymore if it's not GNR.
But we're okay with that.
Yeah, and I you know, from the article that you did about Izzy, you do have a really unique style, and you do go out there and do the hands-on stuff that you're talking about. It's almost like I sent you the article, and this is more relevant now than it has been in years, which Brandon knows, but I sent you the article that Rolling Stone did on Vinnie Vincent from Kiss. And your Izzy article was really similar to that, because that guy went out there, you know, he got into the history of Vinnie Vincent, but he also got interviews from guys like Mark Slaughter and, you know, talked to people where his house is located in Connecticut and, you know, his other house in Smyrna, Tennessee. Like, that's what makes a good journalist. I agree. This guy didn't go out there and rehash old quotes from Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons about Vinnie Vincent. So, yeah, and the reason I say it's more relevant today than it's been in years is basically that, you know, for the cross-section of people who listen to this show and also like Kiss, Vinnie Vincent is going to be at the Atlanta Kiss Expo in January, and this is the first public appearance he's making anywhere since, I believe, like 1998. Like, he hasn't been seen publicly at all since then. So this is an insanely epic event. Just the fact that he's going to be there. Maybe
Vinny's going to start a supergroup with Izzy. You know, the people who you've never seen before, or something catchier.
Izzy's still been
something catchier though.
Izzy's been seen a little bit more though when you think about it, because every now and again Izzy will have a YouTube video, he'll put out an album,
or song.
He'll at least put out a tweet. Like, Vinnie Vincent has done nothing since 1998, I think it was. If you really look into the history of it, he is the only guy who's more of a mystery than Izzy.
Yeah, no, I love that piece you sent me, and I agree. I think that's the only thing you can do when it comes to these kind of people now at this point is to archive their history, go to their hometowns, talk to their friends and family, understand their psychology, dig into their music and their craft, as opposed to the whole biography stuff. You know, point A to point B stuff is really boring.
Yeah.
But also, it's like even that's been fucked up. Like, I was reading Rolling Stone's bio on GNR, like their bio on their website, you know, of GNR. You'd think it'd be accurate, but I read it. It's like there's like literally big, giant, like glaring mistakes that anybody who knows anything about GNR would have caught. Like, for example, like Welcome to the Jungle was never a #1 hit. Everybody knows that. Every GNR fan knows that. Every novice music critic knows that. But it's on the fucking RollingStone.com bio on GNR. It says Welcome to the Jungle was a #1 hit in 1987, which is complete bullshit. It was never a #1 hit. So it's like stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think the archival information from the various magazines and the books, I think that's also important.
Mm-hmm.
I think no one's really done that. And I'm giving too much away. I think because now some idiot's going to write that book. Like some feminist or like Pitchfork's going to write a book about GNR. Like, it's going to be like my nightmares. I'm going to wake up in the middle of the night one day with a phone call from like Alan Niven. Hey mate, you hear about the? And I'm going to be like slitting my wrists in bed. So no, let's not talk about this anymore.
No, maybe in the future, because we're going to have, obviously, Art, you're one of our, our bad apples. Sorry, I'm an idiot. That I want you to maybe have like a feature on the show going forward. Like, it's just like Art's rant, where you're just like a rant for like a minute and just go off or whatever. That could be interesting.
I don't know. I get in trouble for these, man. The reason I like podcasts is, you know, people will listen to it, but they're too lazy to like transcribe it and then post it on Facebook or something. This is the thing I've noticed about podcasts is people are too lazy now to expose something you say as quote unquote problematic when you're on a radio show or a podcast. So
you never know, though, man. There's with my other podcast, SoftRep, we have this guy Corey Alanis on pretty often, who's a computer hacker, and he's gone to like these hacking conventions in Vegas. He's like a hacker for the U.S. government. And someone transcribed like a giant quote that he said and tweeted it to me. You know, they like put it in a picture. And I was like, holy shit, like people are really into this if they're transcribing like paragraphs of information.
I was surprised when we did the Dave Kushner interview, all the outlets that picked it up, they transcribed that as well. So, I mean, there's somebody doing it, or they just ask Siri and Siri does it or whatever. I guess you never know. Whatever you want to do, Art. Obviously, you're always welcome on this show.
Speed up the audio and just speed it up. It's like a chipmunk, and nobody can transcribe it.
No, this is your safe space. This is everyone's safe space.
So you guys need to hear just my like random thought. You guys need to do an episode. You guys need to do more episodes on like subjects. Like do an episode on 1 in a million or whatever, and just like have really. You need an episode where somebody says something that's so outrageous that everyone's talking about it, and it becomes like complete it's like.
Well, this is coming from a guy who's doing a piece on Milo Yiannopoulos, so that's kind of what he's known to do.
And Ian did once.
I can talk about 1 in a million. I'll defend 1 in a million any fucking day. Okay, I'll be the fucking the quote unquote white supremacist. I'm not at all. I'll be that guy because I love that song and I think that song's awesome. I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks about it. All day.
All right, we've spoken about 1 in a million a ton. I love that tune. You know, I mean, it's the lyrics. It's a character. I think I've compared it to Tom Sawyer. There's certain words in there that you just need for effect. But I mean, as far as controversial, I think maybe it was when Ian said that he believes Buckethead suffers from autism.
Yeah, there's probably something going on.
Do you remember when you said that?
Yeah, I do.
That's awesome.
So, I mean, you never know. But my point,
I didn't see it as a negative thing. I mean,
no, I know. It was an interesting observation. But the point being, I'm going on GNR forum and just getting they were talking about the Raz Q. That's where I was going, the Raz Q episode, and why Raz, I asked him why he put out his book in addition to his story, as being paralyzed at 15 and managing LA Guns at 19, is to get rid of the fake facts. Like that's what Raz was like. I'm reading all these things that I'm like, that did not happen. And that's ridiculous.
No more alternative facts on GNR need to go away.
Right, and it's the same thing you just said, Art. So it's good to see like Raz got his book out there. Well, books because he has one about a weed bus, but GNR book, and it's the same thing that you're doing, Art. Is getting that's what it should be. You're always going on Twitter, follow Art Tavana, but saying where's journalism gone? And it always makes me think of...
There's no journalism anymore.
No, I feel like Guns N' Roses need to make another Get in the Ring and then, start naming more people. So that's kind of what I would like to see. And they seem to...
Well, I mean, if there's any truth to the Axl Rose autobiography, probably, I'm guessing, written by Del James or somebody. If there's any truth to it, that'll be very controversial, and we'll have a lot to talk about for like 10 years.
Did I don't know, I forget because you've been on so often, Art. Did you hear the quote, what Baz said about Axl's book?
No, I didn't hear it, but I heard.
I can play it for you right now if you want.
Go for it, please.
I have the power.
One person says you should tell Axl to start writing his memoir.
He already did.
Have you read it?
No. But
Is it locked away?
No, but I remember when I was on tour with him in 2010, I was like, I'm going to start writing a book, dude. Ooh. Because have you started yet? I go, well, I got, chapter or two. Have you started writing yours? He goes, yeah, I got like 40,000 words. Or some crazy number. But who knows if
it'll ever come out.
Who knows?
So of course, that's where you have to say, I don't know if it's ever going to come out, but so yeah, there's from the Baz's mouth, he has some stuff written down. Some.
Oh, okay, well that doesn't mean shit. That just, we're never going to see a book.
So before we get out of here, of course, follow Art on Twitter at Art Tavana, arttavana.com, right? Yeah, arttavana.com. And then I just saw you started a Patreon, patreon.com/arttavana.
Yeah, I got a Patreon, I got a PayPal. I just did it because I figured at some point in the next few months, people would just decide to give me money randomly. So it's there. If you like my articles, if you like what I do, send me money. I have to also say the Izzy Stradlin article I wrote, I went in debt for that article. I got paid $200 for that article. I probably spent like $800 on it. So that's kind of the problem of being who I am, is I spend more money on the articles I write than I make.
Well, I feel like if you're going to do a Patreon, because I did look at it, you got to put some cool perks there. Because I have donated to people on Patreon, but there's been like cool perks along with it. Like, I think you should do, I don't know, man, do like a weekly YouTube video for Patreon subscribers or something.
Like a blowjob for somebody if they give me $5,000. Like,
yeah,
I don't
throw that on there. I think you should.
I can't. There's nothing for me to give people. There's nothing I can give somebody except journalism that's honest and brutal and like not controlled by the left or right wing. And
yeah, but I think you could do
and your love and affection.
In all seriousness, you could do like YouTube update videos of what you're up to for Patreon subscribers. I think people would just something small like that.
Yeah, I thought about doing more periscoping, because every time I do stuff like that, people really like it and like it's kind of cool. But I found that I'm a better writer than I'm a talker, and when I talk, I tend to say things that, when I look at it later, it's kind of like, holy shit, that was way too honest. Like, I should have just kept that underneath my, like, that's just something you don't put out there because everyone's going to use that against you in 2 years. When you, like, run for office, someone's going to say, he defended blah, blah, blah on some podcast in 1980. Like, stupid, pathetic losers out there who want to, like, destroy you.
Well, Art currently has, we always have been, like, around the same amount of followers. Art has 11 more followers than me currently. But you're also following way more people than me, so.
The ratio,
Yeah.
I'm not even good at Twitter. I just go on there and just say, I stopped doing Facebook, so now my Twitter is just, I post way more on Twitter than I used to, and Facebook is dead. I'm never doing it again. Instagram is done. Never doing it again. Snapchat is for a bunch of 13-year-old girls who, I have nothing to say to or think about anymore in my life. And Tumblr is for these fucking losers who want to spend 45 hours talking about Drake's cats, or like how drinking milk is misogynistic. Or
Yo, you know what I will say though? Actually, before we wrap up with the whole social media thing, because I know we always go on these different rants here. But
it's distortion. It's what we do.
Drinking milk is racist.
I kind of hate the social media thing too, but Twitter also is like getting way too political with what they're highlighting, like towards the left. Yeah. Have you seen that, Art?
Yeah, fuck Twitter. They're completely run by a bunch of leftists.
Yeah, well, the most recent example of this I saw, to be honest. All right, this pissed me off, so I got to mention it. And it's not Guns N' Roses related, but it's music related. So I don't know if you saw that John Mayer tweeted out, he was like, I spend way too much time thinking about if Nicki Minaj would like me. So then Nicki Minaj tweeted back to him, would my body be your wonderland? And then John Mayer was like, at Nicki Minaj, he was like, holy shit, this is awesome, and this is not my full reply. I need to process this, which I thought was, it was cute, it was funny. And then some fucking NPR journalist, I think it was, I don't even remember who. Do you know where I'm going, Art?
It was a girl, and I won't talk about her too much because I tweeted at her, and I think she got offended by it. But she wrote,
"Fuck her though."
Yeah, I think.
Yeah. So this
some UK journalist.
So this fucking woman rehashes a quote that John Mayer said in a Playboy interview, 10 years ago. He made a statement about him only being into white women, and he said, he was like, I'm all for everybody. He was like, I'm very much diverse in my friendship and all that. He was like, but my dick is like David Duke. It's only into white women.
That's funny.
But here's the thing. He said it 10 years ago. He got some heat for it, and I remember he went on stage and he was like, look, it was a completely out of line thing to say, and he was up there with black band members, and he's like, that is not how I feel. It came out wrong, and I deeply apologize. And I think everybody took it as an apology and got over it. It was meant to be a funny comment, but to some people it wasn't funny. So then this fucking woman on Twitter rehashes through, was like, this is why this flirting between Nicki Minaj and John Mayer is not okay, because he made this comment to Playboy magazine 10 years ago, and John Mayer is never going to know what it's like to have to live as a minority in the United States. And it was like, come on. It was a fucking innocent flirting thing.
On Twitter, nothing has to do with anything.
And so I hope that someone finds something this woman said that was offensive 10 years ago and bites her in the ass with it, because that's just fucked up. I don't like when people do that.
Again, that's to make it back to GNR. That's just the interesting part of all their social media. Slash is the best to follow because he just tweets ridiculous shit.
Yeah.
Duff doesn't get political, usually family things, all of that. But if you follow Richard, if you follow Del James, of course, you're going to get into a Twitter fight. I mean, that's just the world that we live in.
Well, the one thing about the John Mayer thing is, and this goes back to Guns N' Roses and Axl Rose and One in a Million and everything, it's like, if you were at a certain point in your life, like John Mayer was high on drugs, he was going through manic depression, he's talked about this, he was fucked up, he was going through a breakup, he was literally at the point of thinking about killing himself, and then a fucking reporter said, let's do an interview. The guy's fucked up out of his mind, he's on the verge of having a mental breakdown, and he said some really stupid shit that was objectively really fucking stupid, and then he fucking regretted it. He said, I'm sorry. A fucking decade later, he's being basically told by the internet that he can't be attracted to a black girl. Like, he's no longer allowed to flirt with a black woman on social media, or publicly or privately. He is now excluded from the right of being able to have fun on social media with another, like, celebrity who happens to be an African American. It's like, Jesus fucking Christ, dude. Like, leave the guy alone. It's a joke. And the girl who wrote it, I think she parlayed that into, like, a think piece. She probably got like 25,000 more followers on Twitter.
Yeah, I noticed that. She didn't have a big following, so it was like, this is just someone who wants to be famous, and if you're going to tell me that in 10 years you never made any statement that you regretted, then I don't know. I don't know what to say, because I think all of us have made some statement that we regretted within 10 years.
I just did probably 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, and he apologized for it. So that's the one thing I do hate about the internet, man. And so that pissed me off about Twitter, because Twitter highlighted this woman's tweet and made a big story out of it. And to me, the bigger story was like Nicki Minaj and John Mayer kind of flirting on Twitter.
Will there be a sex tape?
Yeah, and now, this is, because I think it would be cool for them if they hooked up or something. But now the internet says that's not allowed because he said something offensive 10 years ago.
I thought it was hot. I was like, when I first saw it, I was like, man, this is hot. Like, the thought of John Mayer, who objectively is a beautiful man, and the thought of Nicki Minaj, who's objectively a beautiful woman,
yes,
like having going on a date was like, to me, like, this is beautiful. And then this fucking rodent in the UK, this poor, pathetic, disgusting human being, spends 5 hours thinking about an entire Twitter rant, complicated, complex Twitter rant about white privilege and growing up as a white male in America and what that means about dude, he just fucking tweeted about a girl that he thought was really cool and probably thought her music was awesome and maybe thought she was hot. All he said was, I wonder what she thinks about me. He didn't say anything even remotely sexual. That's the funny part.
Hey, well, I will caveat the beautiful woman thing, because I'll tell you this, man. I did see Nicki Minaj in the hallways at Sirius XM, and first of all, she's got a shitload of plastic surgery. So, either you're into that or you're not, because that's not what she looked like before. But, the fake tits, cool. I'm into it. But dude, that fake ass, it is, if you see it in person, it just looks absurd, because she's a tiny little girl with like the biggest ass I've ever seen in my life. And
I'm going off her face. I'm going off the only thing I've ever seen is that she's a really pretty face. I think she's attractive.
I don't say this, though. I don't say this as a joke. This is truly what happened. There are 2 times I've been call screening a show at Sirius, and I dropped the phone and said, holy shit. All right. One of them was when there was the New York City earthquake that happened.
Okay.
All right. The other was when Nicki Minaj walked by, and I saw just how huge her ass is in proportion to her body. It's ridiculous, dude. The face is nice. I agree, but like, if you saw this thing in person, it's bizarre. It's really bizarre. Is the only way I can describe it.
Well, she's probably a little bit of a freak show. So is probably every celebrity who's had work done or whatever. But and then it just like, it's happened with Axl Rose, One in a Million. He wrote a song. He just he thought it was kind of. He probably regrets what he said in that song, even though I don't think he should.
Well, it's not even just the song, though, Art. It's like he's done interviews, and I've watched from that era, and he'll just say the N-word with the hard R, not in a derogatory word, but just saying this is like a very conversationally. This is, I had experienced this and this and this. So, I mean, that's out there. But even if he's using conversationally just as a word, I mean, that's out there. People. Who's the comedian we were talking about? That Eric Andre.
Oh, yeah.
You remember Eric Andre assumes that Guns N' Roses is racist because of that song? Even though Slash is half black and Frank Farrar.
I had a little Twitter fight with Talib Kweli, the rapper no one gives a shit about anymore on Twitter, who's just become like this wacko troll on Twitter because he can't release a mixtape anybody would care about. And then he fucking he went on my bio and he saw that I was a GNR fan, and he went and pulled up the 1 in a Million lyrics and he pasted it on Twitter and said, "Oh, here we go. Not surprised. You're a fan of this band." Like, the insinuation is that fans of Guns N' Roses are racist. Guns N' Roses is racist. Axl Rose is a racist. Just because he wrote a song, 1989, which my math sucks, which is like 30 years ago or whatever, and the song had a few words in it that was offensive. Like, these fucking idiots won't let it go. They'll never let it go. Even if, Axl Rose is probably the most, honestly, he's probably the most liberal guy from that era that's still playing music right now. Probably. Like, honestly, he probably is. Like, he's probably the most left person from that era that's playing music right now. Because most of those guys are kind of slightly, vaguely right-wing.
Yeah.
He's not.
Well, Nikki Sixx is pretty liberal.
Yeah, so is Tommy Lee. Although, you could find shit on them. There's, you could find a video on YouTube where they use the N-word at some black security guard. And, like, the point being, though, everybody has things they've said that they regretted. Sure. And I think I just don't like the fact that, man, Twitter has become just, this jury of... It just, it pisses me off. I really don't like it. So that's why I brought that up. And John Mayer actually seems like a cool guy, I think. And excellent guitar player. I mean, I think we know of him as like this.
So good. Yeah.
Yeah, we think of him as this like celebrity and Your Body is a Wonderland type songs and all that. But his guitar playing is excellent.
Well, he's part of the Grateful Dead now, so.
He is?
Well, he's fronting Dead & Company.
I had no idea that.
Oh, really? That's been going on for a while.
Okay.
I'm going to say something. Let me just end with saying something very racist. He's like the white Jimi Hendrix. There you go.
That's I don't consider that. I know what you mean by like that's what you think that's racist, or other people with that. I mean, that's an interesting, because he was up there in the top 500 guitarists of all time in Rolling Stone. Nice. But you know what? I shouldn't even use that because I don't even think they had Slash on that, so they can go fuck themselves.
Bullshit.
Yeah, they can go fuck themselves.
Who cares? Rolling Stone fucking things.
That's true. But Art, you're awesome. I'm so glad you came on again. You're obviously always welcome, and I won't play the sound clip again. You're one of our bad apples.
And as always, follow us at the AFD show. Follow Brando at Belviv Brando. I'm gonna plug my Twitter at Ian Scotto because I'm starting to like think of other things I want to work on outside of what I'm already working on. So follow me at Ian Scotto. And Facebook, of course, the AFD show, or facebook.com/the AFD show, or just look up Appetite for Distortion. And I think that's it, man.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot of ground today.
Yeah, a lot of ideas for upcoming episodes. I just spoke to a radio friend of mine, Joe Rock, who just saw Guns N' Roses for the first time since 1980 down in the show they just did in Texas.
Not to be confused with Kid Joe from what was his name? Was it the Kid Joe from Kid Rock? Remember the little person?
Joe
yes,
C.
Joe C.
Rest in
That's
peace.
who I think of when I hear Joe Rock. I think of Joe C. from Kid Rock.
All right, well, you're the only one. So maybe I'll get him on. He's got some great stories. He plays often with Mark Mendoza from Twisted Sister. A lot of great ideas you're giving us on GNR Forum. So yeah, anything else, my dear Ian?
No, that's it. I think we plugged it all.
What about you, Sweet Cheeks Art? Anything else you want to add?
No, I just think let's do an episode on a specific GNR topic and just rip on it and do our
You do.
Okay, you do. Okay, fine. Then do one that's really sick and bring me on and I can talk about it and make it,
We'll do that then. If you want, we can do. No, send me ideas. That's what I want. I want to have, in addition to just saying, yeah, I really like this song, I really like this band. We get
as long as you can expand
in-depth
upon it. That's
conversations.
Always good.
Which we do. We've spoken about 1 in a Million. We've spoken about. We have an episode entitled "Politics in Roses." So I mean, there's a lot of. If this is the first time you're finding us, look back at our catalog on iHeart or Apple Podcasts, and we have a lot of not just guests, but interesting topics that we cover concerning this wonderful band that we all appreciate.
I agree. The one last thing I was going to say, because I told you this before we recorded. I'm very often saying on this show that there's no good rock music. Everything I like is from 5-10 years ago. Believe it or not, because I'm not being paid to say this, I just like them. So everybody should check out the drummer from Kitty is in a new band that she's fronting called the White Swan. They're like a Canadian doom metal type band. They are fucking awesome. The White Swan. Yeah, they sound like Black Sabbath meets Alice in Chains meets Down meets Deftones with a female front woman.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna Google it right now.
You would dig them, man. They're great. They're great.
Maybe we'll do some AFD picks for our fellow GNR fans.
Yeah, and I love.
And the next time I see or talk to you guys, I will have seen Danzig, because I'm seeing Danzig tomorrow.
Nice.
Mother. So I haven't seen. So that's going to be cool. So if that's it, thanks for listening to the AFD show. When will we be back? So to borrow a phrase from Axl Rose to Kurt Loder concerning Chinese democracy, I don't know if soon is the word, but you'll see it.
You've been listening to the distorted minds of Brando and Scotto, dissecting all things Guns N' Roses on Appetite for Distortion. Follow the guys on Twitter at The AFD Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/The AFD Show.
Thanks to the lame ass security, I'm going home.